everyone. All right, in our last lesson, we talked about finding the hypotenuse of a triangle using the Pythagorean theorem. Well, today we're going to continue our journey with Pythagorean theorem. However, instead of finding the hypotenuse, which was the angle, the diagonal cut, we are actually going to be looking for the missing leg of a triangle today. So our essential question is, how do you find the length of a missing leg of a triangle? So our example today that we're going to start with has a leg that is missing. So again, we're going to continue working with a right triangle, but in our right triangle, one of the legs is missing. So we're going to have a right triangle like we did in our last lesson, and instead of looking for C, we're going to either be looking for A or B on the bottom. So in this first example, I have 25 feet for the hypotenuse, and I have 7 feet for length A. And what's missing is the bottom or length B. And so our job is to, again, continue to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we're going to look at using substitution again. So I'm going to think to myself, okay, yesterday I used substitution to just fill in the information that I know. So what do I know? Okay, well, I know 7 feet is length A because it's on the side. So 7 squared is going to go in the A. I don't know the B. So I don't know B squared. I do know the C. Well, the C is right here on that hypotenuse, the diagonal. So the diagonal is 25 squared. Okay, so let's think again about our last lesson. In our last lesson, my next step was to square everything. So in this lesson, we're going to square all of our numbers that we know. So here we use substitution. And now we're going to square everything. So step 1, use substitution. Step 2, we're just going to square things. So 7 squared, I know 7 times 7 is 49. I still don't know what b is. So I'm just going to keep that as b squared. And I do know 25 squared. Oh my goodness, 25 squared. So 25 times 25. Let's go ahead and pull out our little, our Desmos calculator from yesterday or our last lesson. And we're going to go ahead and use that again because that is a really bizarre one. So let's go ahead. Let's do 25 times 25. Oops. Oh, it equals 625. If you already know that, you are amazing. And you could have just written that down just the same. Okay, so we have 625 is our answer for c squared. Okay, so here's where it's going to get a little bit different than what we did. We know A, we know C, but we do not know what B is. But we can isolate this variable and use this as a one-step equation. So we're going to solve this as if it were a one-step equation. So our job right now then is going to be to isolate this variable. So I'm going to draw my balance line. And I am going to subtract 49 from here. So that goes away. And I am going to subtract 49 from here. I'm then going to just drop down. Instead of 1b, I now have b squared or b times b. So now I'm just going to solve this by using subtraction. So I'm going to take 625 and I'm going to, I'm trying to still learn how to use this thing. So we're going to take 625 and we are going to subtract 49, and that gives us 576. So I solved. So step 3 is solve. And step 4 then is going to be to find the square root of 576. So I'm going to find the square root of 576. So let's get rid of all this. Woo. And we are going to find the square root of 576. And that gives me an answer of 24. So B equals 24. So when I look at this triangle again, I can see that B is 24 feet. All right, let's do another triangle. Our next triangle. This triangle is just a smidge trickier because in this triangle, they do give you some decimals. And so I want to make sure that you are able to solve this with decimals, because out there in the world, you aren't going to have just perfect lengths when you're measuring things. Sometimes you'll have tenths or 3/4 of an inch or half of an inch or something like that, and we still need to be able to solve for those lengths. Okay, in this example that we're going to look at, cannot write today, and I apologize for that. Okay, this first triangle, or this second triangle, that we're going to draw, looks something like this. It's turned kind of weird, but the right triangle part is right there, which should look more like a square. Anyways, they want you to find leg A, and we're looking at 2.1 for leg B, and then leg C, hypotenuse C is 2.9 centimeters. So we're working in centimeters right now. I had to tape a piece of paper over this because look, my first drawing, look how bad that was. It was awful. Okay, so this one's not any better. I don't know what's going on with my math today. Okay, so now that you can see this, hopefully a little bit better, it won't be so crazy. Okay, so our first job, like last time, was to just write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And now we're going to go ahead and fill in when we have decimals this time around. So we have a, here's my a, and this is going to just remain a squared because we don't know what a is. We do know leg B. Leg B is going to be 2.1 squared, and we're looking at now C. We know the C as well, so the C is going to be 2 9/10 squared. Okay, so we can look at this and we can do, when we're solving this problem, we can go ahead and use the calculator again. So let's find what I did with the calculator. We're going to square 2.1 by saying 2.1 times 2.1. And that gives us 4.41. So we have 4.41 is our first thing. Oh my gosh. I'm just kidding. This is a squared still. Now we have 4.41 and we're looking for 2.29 squared. So let's look at this as 2.9 times 2.9, and this is going to equal 8.41. 8.41. Okay. So let me move this out of the way so you can see what I started to do and made my mistake there. Again, another mistake. This problem is just not my problem. This one's just not my jam. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we know we need to isolate this variable. In order to solve for leg A, we know we're going to isolate a variable. So let's start by doing the opposite. We have minus 4.1 and minus 4.41. So this zeroes out. This leaves us with a squared, and we get 0 and 0. And then 8 minus 4 is 4 or 4.0. And so now we need to find the square root of 4. Well, this one I can do. A equals 2 times 2 for 4, so A equals 2. So the length of leg A is going to be 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters. All right, it is your job now to do a try it. So let's go ahead and do a try it and solve for the length of the leg. Let's get rid of my weird paper there so you don't have to stare at my mistakes anymore. Just kidding. Okay, so try it. Try it number 1 says that we have a triangle. It's an orange triangle. And this orange triangle is a right triangle. We are looking for leg B. And this one is 16 yards. And the hypotenuse is 34 yards. Okay, and then on the next try it, it is a purple triangle. And this purple triangle is a right triangle. And this right triangle has a hypotenuse of 10.4. I want you to be able to do some decimals, so that's why we're going to do this one. And leg B is 9.6 meters, and we're looking for leg A. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause right now so you don't hear me solving these, and then when you are ready, you can come on back and check your work. All right, so example or try it number 1. We have, again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, so we don't know b, so let's go ahead and keep that as b squared. We know leg A, which is 16 squared, so we're going to square that one. And we are looking for B, so we have 34 squared right there. Okay, next thing that we are going to look at is what happens when we square these. So 16 times 16 is going to give us 225. Again, you can use the little calculator tool to help you with that. No, it's not. It's 256. 256. My apologies. Plus, I read my calculator wrong. B squared. And then we have 34 squared. Let's go ahead and do 34 squared. Oops. All right, so let's get 34 squared. So we have 34, and we're going to square that. And that gives us 1,156. Okay, so now we want to isolate this variable so that we just have b squared by itself. So we're going to subtract 256 and subtract 256. This gives us now 900. And b squared equals 900. Okay, so now we're going to take the square root of 900, and that gives us 30. So B equals 30 yards. All right, how did you do on try it number 1? Did you get 30 yards? If not, figure out where you went wrong in your math so that you can adjust your mistakes. Okay, and then in our next one, let's just go ahead and put this calculator right there because we're going to use that here in a second because these are decimals. All right, so we have a squared plus b squared, again, is equaling c squared. Draw my line and use some substitution. I don't know a squared, but I do know that this is going to be 9.6 squared, and then the hypotenuse is 10.4 squared. All right, so let's go ahead. Pens are out of control here. And let's enter that one. So 9.6, and we're going to square it, and we get 92.16. And then let's go ahead and square that one. So we have 10.4, and I want to square it. That gives me 108.16. And now I'm ready for some subtraction so that I can isolate this variable all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 92.16 and subtract 92.16. A squared equals, can we do 8.16 minus 92? That gives us 16. So now we want to find the square root of 16 to get A, and A equals, 4 times 4 is 16, so A equals 4 meters. All right, how did you do on this try it? So essentially you were just solving a one-step equation like we did before with a triangle. However, instead of setting it to 180, because you're not finding 180, you're just using that Pythagorean theorem and solving it the exact same way. And now we're squaring things. So go ahead and answer your essential question. How do you use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing leg? And then put your level of understanding out to the side. And then when you are done, you may come back to the Google Meet if you have any questions, or you may go on and do your practice work. As always, I appreciate all of your hard work and effort, and make it a great day.